Should you make a BookTube channel in 2024? Well, the short answer is yes. Yes, you should. Why not? Go for it. Do it. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, Book Time with Elvis, with me, Mark, and I hope so much you're doing very well and that you had a wonderful Christmas with whoever you chose to spend it with. Now, I've made previous videos on this subject, and one of them, why you should start a BookTube channel, has been, it's done quite well, for me anyway, and I still receive comments from time to time, and overwhelmingly really nice comments as well, saying that, I've helped to give people a bit of confidence and things in jumping into the sea that is BookTube. And I thought, well, as we're heading into a new year and it's the time when people start reflecting on things and deciding things that they want to do, setting themselves goals for the coming year, I thought I would follow up those previous videos, which I will leave links to down below. One being on ideas for things you can do on BookTube. But I thought I would follow up those videos with this new one, encouraging you to make a BookTube video in 2024. Because if you're watching this, you've probably thought about doing it, and for some reason or another, you haven't yet. You've tarried too long, and you think various thoughts, and you're thinking of all sorts of reasons as to why not to do a BookTube channel, probably. Certainly that's what I did for quite a while. I mean, although I didn't know there was necessarily a thing called BookTube, but I tarried long and hard over whether to start a YouTube channel based around books. Now, there are many reasons why you might not want to do that, or why you're telling yourself you don't want to do that, but I think a lot of the time you just have to ask yourself one question, and that question is, what do you want out of it? Now, if your goal is to reach tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of subscribers and somehow make a living from it, then chances are you won't do that. I think to get into even the tens of thousands is luck, to be honest with you. There are plenty of amazing booktubers who might not even have yet reached 1,000 subscribers, who have been on for a while. And there are plenty of rather rubbish, to be honest. And for want of a better word, I would say fake booktubers who have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Of course, not all of them. I'm not saying that, but there are certainly a good few. I would wager. Of course, I don't know for sure, but it's my opinion. So a lot of it is down to luck. So if your goal is to become BookTube famous, then probably you will be disappointed. So in which case, your reluctance to make your BookTube channel is to some degree founded. However, if your aspirations are somewhat more humble and modest, and you just want to be part of a wonderful community that discusses books and bookish things, then you can't go wrong. If you just want to talk into the ether and hope that your pearls of wisdom are picked up by a few people, you will not be disappointed, because I'm sure you will get over, a certain amount of subscribers, if that is the thing that bothers you. I never imagined I'd get to where I am, and I'm sitting at 1,500. It's still, of course, small in the scheme of things, but it's, reasonably good in our so-called little community. I suppose it's not too bad. I don't know what the average is, but it seems fairly average, maybe. I'm not sure, but that wasn't my goal. My goal was to make content related to the reading that I do and something I love, which are books. And it just so happens at least 1,500 of you are mad enough to subscribe. Now, obviously, you sometimes get more viewers who don't subscribe, and there's various reasons for that, but it's not something you should dwell too much on, because I've watched plenty of YouTube channels that I've enjoyed the video I watched and didn't subscribe to the channel. So it's just maybe I was busy, maybe I just didn't think about it, and there's all sorts of reasons. But what are the, for want of better words, pros and cons of starting a BookTube channel? And probably the biggest advantage or pro is that of community engagement, being part of a community. When you watch people doing their BookTube newbie tags, one of the most common answers to one of the questions or prompts in that tag is that people feel like they don't have friends or contacts in their real life with whom they can discuss books and their love of reading with. This gives those people, and I'm one of those people, that feeling of a community, generally a safe and nice and kind and friendly community, full of people with whom you can interact with in various ways, this being kind of the portal to the interaction. But we can send emails to each other, different Voxer contacts, all sorts of things. You can build your own mini community, micro community on Patreon, for example, which I've done, and I absolutely love it. I've got such a fantastic bunch of people on there. Again, more people than I ever thought I would have on there. And normally I would be displaying their names behind me. Unfortunately, I've been having issues with getting the display to work with the computer that I'm recording on, and that. I'm also in the process of making a new display too. But that's something you can get into fairly early. I mean, you have to, if you want to monetize your channel, you have to wait till you have something like 1,000 subscribers and 5,000 or so, or 4,000 or so viewing hours. Whereas there's no rule on when you can start a Patreon community. This is just kind of the way you can start to build that community, perhaps. But I think it's very important that we feel part of this community. It can be a very strong and supportive community, and it also introduces us to books and literature that otherwise perhaps we may not have thought about. There are other things, of course. Just the outlet. BookTube serves as an outlet for you to let out and propel your passion for books and reading into the wider world, which is, if you don't have people in your real life to do that with, it's it is a wonderful outlet for that, because so many times, I can't tell you the number of times I bother with my family. I'll read something, I'll call them up and say, hey, look, listen to this, whereas I can do that anytime I want now on BookTube. And I've made some really, really good friends who I've never met, which is also really quite bizarre when you think of it. But I know I could meet them eventually, and I know we would get on really well. So in that sense, building relationships, building community, it's all of an advantage to you if you want to. And it's a big reason as to why you should start a BookTube channel if you've been thinking about it. Everybody has, I've heard this said, I think I've heard Steve Donahue say, for example, every writer has a reader out there, and I think every booktuber has an audience. Now, of course, the size of that audience may vary, but there are always going to be people out there who are going to want to watch your videos. Now, perhaps you don't want to appear on screen. That's not important. You don't have to film yourself. You could film anything else and just talk over it with your voice. There are all sorts of things you can do if perhaps you are a bit shy or introverted when it comes to speaking to the camera. Personally, I quite like it. I like this kind of talking to the camera or talking to you through the camera. But I can't watch myself back, which is why I've given up with a lot of the editing, which I'll come to later probably as one of the so-called cons or disadvantages to it. But if you are naturally inclined to be introverted, then BookTube will help you kind of pull yourself out there, you will build up skills in terms of public speaking, expressing yourself, and not to mention the other skills that come with obviously having to record, edit, upload, and all that kind of thing, and other skills that go into running a BookTube channel. You may, of course, get some financial benefits from creating an extremely successful YouTube channel. That might be part of your motivation, but as I say, it should not be the overwhelming factor in your decision, because the chances of you getting to a level where you can do this as a full-time job or even get a reasonable amount of income are quite low. So it should, your primary motivation should be that passion for books and community engagement. That would be my advice to you there. Now, in terms of so-called disadvantages, would be things like I've mentioned there, the pressure to put out finely tuned, finely edited videos because you've seen some other people do that. Well, I wouldn't worry about it. I worried about it in the beginning, and now I just hit record and I go. If I make a massive mistake, for example, I can't remember something, I'm lucky I can just pause the recording, go and look up what I need to look up, and then press record again, and it carries on. Now, if I make a really big mistake, then I will turn to editing. But to be honest with you, I'm pretty sure I could just say, "Oh, silly me, that was an error. Sorry for that." Because, you know, a lot of people like the informal style. They like the idea of the pub talk or cafe talk. And sometimes you might make a mistake in real life. If you're talking with someone, you don't, rewind, cut, and edit it out. You just can carry on, unless people are actually paying you for the content that you put out, then you don't have this kind of high service ideal that you have to kind of strive for, unless that's part of your personality. And if it is, then so be it. Now, if you are into all that editing and stuff, then it can lead to another charge against, or a so-called disadvantage of having a BookTube channel, which is that it's time consuming. Obviously, a lot of our time is taken up by reading anyway, a fair amount's done by filming, and then of course, if you have to edit all the videos you make, and at the beginning you might be tempted to make a lot of videos, then you're going to take up hours and hours of time. Now, if that's fine for you, then it's not a disadvantage. If you don't care, then it's not a disadvantage because you don't need to think about it. So don't let things like that bother you. A lot of people feel as well that they have to spend a lot of money on their equipment, and I kind of felt like that at the beginning as well. But it's not true. If you have a fairly decent microphone, fairly decent camera, whether it's your phone, I just use a $25, $30 web camera that records directly to my computer now. Again, I think my microphone was maybe $20, $30, something like that, which, maybe is a big outlay for some people at the beginning, but I didn't get it all at the beginning. And when you compare to what other people use, it's really not a lot of money. And most of you have a very decent video camera on your phone, even if it's not a super expensive phone. And even the microphone can be fairly decent on that if you have a good place in which to record. So you don't have to spend very much money at all. I think that's just personal choice. So you don't need to let that stop you. Again, going back to the causes, your motivations for starting this channel, and as I said, if it's primarily fame and financial, then you'll probably be disappointed. And it's also things like you might be worried about the competition on YouTube, as it were, on BookTube, that you might get lost in a sea. Well, there are loads. I mean, I'm finding new channels every day, new BookTube channels every day, people finding me every day. So there is a lot of competition out there, but it's not really competition, because your audience is going to find you somehow. eventually. You're not in competition with other booktubers, and a lot of booktubers will promote your channel if you are much smaller. Some people promote really large, small channels promote really large channels as well, and you'll find that as long as you're willing to engage with other booktubers, they are a doorway and a pathway to your growth as well. You know, in the beginning, you need to be out there a little bit to promote your channel, because it will get lost in a sea of millions upon millions of other channels that are out there on all sorts of different subjects. So you need to comment on other booktubers' channels. They will, of course, click on your channel, they'll look at it, and then they'll see whether it's their cup of tea or not. And it's doubtful that if it's not, it's nothing personal. It's just perhaps what you are looking to talk about isn't something maybe that they would read, but it's nothing against you. And certainly, you know, I'm not a huge science fiction fan. I don't subscribe to many science fiction channels. There are a couple that I do subscribe to there because I like the individual. And that also can help. But you don't have to look at it as a competition. You may, and this is something that bothers me still after almost 3 years, things like negative feedback. I hate it. I don't like it. When I see a thumb down on my video, it upsets me. And it's not that I have that many, but sometimes you get them. Who knows, I may even get one on this video, and it will upset me, and some cruel person is probably thinking, I'm going to upset him and give him a thumbs down. I'm not going to get upset over one on this one, though, because now I'm expecting it, of course, but in the end, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Again, it might not even be personal. Who knows, maybe the person who gave you a thumbs down is a subscriber, they quite like you, they just didn't like what you said. Maybe you rubbed them up the wrong way in a particular video. I think it is key not to become obsessed with the analytics and the numbers and all that kind of stuff, because you will find that you will gain subscribers, you will lose subscribers for various reasons, whether it is people literally unsubscribing from you because they don't like you anymore, or they don't like the turn your channel's taken, or they don't like something you said that may be deemed to be politically incorrect, or that kind of thing. They may unsubscribe, they may give thumbs down on your video, but then, you know, for every person you may lose, you may get 5-6 people back, you know. So I wouldn't let things like that put you off at the beginning. The key is just to know exactly what you want from the experience, and to be realistic about your own goals and targets for and motivation for beginning your BookTube channel. You know, if you are realistic, you're not going to be disappointed. You know, if you say, in the end of my first year, I want 100 subscribers, and if you put yourself out there, comment on other YouTubers, other BookTubers videos, join in reading events, you will reach that easily. You will probably exceed that, and then you've exceeded your expectations, and you only feel good about yourself, right? And feel that it was good. And why did I put off for so long doing this? I don't know many people who regret having made or started a BookTube channel. I know many people who are dithering and tarrying long and hard over whether or not they should. I was one of them. I did it, and I have no regrets. And as I say, I don't think many others do. So do it. Jump in. Get in there and make 2024 the year that you start your BookTube channel. You've got nothing, literally nothing to lose. As I said, you don't even need to buy that expensive equipment or any equipment necessarily, apart from your mobile phone camera, maybe a microphone. You don't even need to buy a load of books. You can download books for free. You can get books from the library. You can, obviously from reputable sources, like Project Gutenberg or library apps or whatever. Get books from the library, borrow books from friends, whatever. It doesn't need to be a hobby that costs an arm and a leg. And if you start something like a Patreon, you may find that you get enough people subscribing to you that you can use that money to get some more books to keep your hobby going, which is it's a wonderful thing. It doesn't cost the person very much. I do feel my own patrons quite reasonable. Obviously, I value myself at thousands of pounds a month for individual things, but I have to be realistic. People aren't going to pay that, except my mum maybe. But that those little things can help. As I said, be realistic. Keep level-headed. Keep your feet on the ground. All these kind of cliched. That's what I'm going for. You see, made a mistake, didn't edit, don't care. You don't care, do you? You probably didn't even notice it until I pointed it out, right? So don't worry, give it a go. And I think, again, sticking in the realm of cliche, be yourself. It's hard to pretend to be somebody else because you have to maintain that. And that can cause you a lot of stress. Be yourself. There will be an audience for you. You don't need to conform to all these popular book trends. You don't have to jump into every single event, even if it's something that you don't like. I mean, in my own case, I don't read a lot of popular stuff. I'm never going to have tens of thousands of followers because I don't read a lot of science fiction. I don't read fantasy. I don't read trash. I don't read romance. I don't read really horror unless it's, Victorian or Edwardian horror from time to time. And I'm fine with that. I know the people who follow me either really like me as a person and the way that I speak to them, to you, or they like the stuff that I read. And it's not, as I say, the most fashionable stuff. It's not even necessarily always the most politically agreeable stuff for a lot of people these days. But it's we have one life. We have only a limited amount of time to read. So I'm comfortable in the fact I'm going to read what I want to read. And that's that. I'm not going to force myself to read things that I don't want to read. Having said that, of course, still keep that open mind, because I have found some gems through watching other booktubers talk about books that I wouldn't normally read. Then watching them talking about it has convinced me to want to read that particular book, which I never would have picked up in a million years. So that, of course, is also something that's only a positive. I think there are really only positives to you starting your BookTube channel. So as I say, don't delay. Start your BookTube channel today. Well, at least in 2024. Thank you ever so much for watching. Good luck in your endeavors. Let me know if you start a channel, and I can assure you I will check it out, and I will very likely be one of your early subscribers if you let me know. Take care, everybody. All the best. Bye-bye.